Maybe you've noticed this. A thread starts with a clip. Someone you never met says something careless. Within hours, that clip becomes a chorus. Some people find themselves amplifying that chorus. They retweet, they comment, they call for consequences. They join the pile. But here's what's interesting. It doesn't always feel righteous. Sometimes it feels electric. Sometimes it feels urgent. Sometimes it feels like safety. There's nothing wrong with feeling this way. Many people experience it, not because they're cruel, not because they want to hurt someone for sport. Often it's a response to something older, something about belonging, something about fairness, something about moral clarity. Psychologists suggest that moral outrage lights up social connection. Research shows that moralizing posts travel faster and get more engagement than neutral ones. So the very platforms that encourage speaking up also reward it. And that reward is quick: a notification, a like, a share, small, loud confirmations that a person is on the correct side. At the same time, emotions are messy. Anger feels useful. It turns confusion into action. It simplifies complexity into a clear target. Early experiences matter too. For some, childhood lessons about fairness were sharp and simple, right and wrong, safe and unsafe. For others, identity formed in groups where standing up mattered: a family, a team, a community. Those patterns show up later as moral speed. When injustice appears, action appears fast. But this is where it gets interesting. Not everyone who joins cancellations acts the same way. There are profiles in the crowd. Some seek moral belonging. They want to show alignment with a group. Some chase a sense of control in a chaotic world. Calling someone out feels like setting a boundary. Some are driven by grief or fear, searching for ways to protect what matters. And most of the time, these motives are mixed. A common pattern looks like this: notice injustice, emotional surge, public call to act, social feedback, habit. Most people don't think about this part. They see the call-out and read it as immediate justice. They don't track how often the act becomes the main meal, not the appetizer. There's also an algorithmic angle. Platforms notice attention and amplify it. The more outrage, the more reach. The more reach, the more incentive to produce outrage. It creates a loop. That loop teaches habits. Habits teach identity, which is why some people find themselves constantly scanning for the next wrong to fix. Real examples are ordinary. A colleague's old tweet resurfaces. A comedian's joke suddenly reframed. A public figure's past mistake laid bare. A fire round of responses follows, and people who rarely post become vocal overnight. And this is where it gets interesting. For some, cancellation is a short, sharp corrective. For others, it becomes a way of being, a stance taken repeatedly, quickly, and loudly. So how to reframe what looks like cruelty, what looks like performative punishment, often comes from deep sensitivity. People who publicly call out others sometimes feel injustice intensely. They don't enjoy the spectacle. They are reacting to the pain they feel when values are violated. That pain can be a strength. Sensitivity to injustice fuels courage, art, and advocacy. But sensitivity also needs regulation. Without it, the impulse to shout becomes the habit, and the habit can consume the nuance that first mattered. Here's a counterintuitive idea. The energy behind public canceling can be redirected. Instead of applause for piling on, that energy can go into long-term things. Creativity becomes one path. Some of the most persistent activists turned outrage into novels, films, or community projects. Thinking is another path. Turning a reaction into sustained questions, research, dialogue, careful critique often creates more durable change. Relationships matter too. Channeling moral concern into conversations with friends, colleagues, or the people implicated can lead to repair rather than rupture. And quiet moments are surprisingly fertile. A private practice of reflection stops the reflexive tweet. A notebook, a walk, a slow conversation. These slow down the rush and reveal whether action should be public or private. Most people don't realize how much meaning they can make from small, steady moves rather than big public gestures. There are different ways of living alongside moral concern. Some chase stimulation, the high of being seen as right. Others look for meaning, the slow work that shifts systems over time. Think of it like fireworks versus a hearth. Fireworks demand attention at once, brilliant and brief. A hearth warms a room slowly, sustaining life over long nights. Both satisfy needs. Both have costs. Fireworks can burn the eyes. Hearths require tending. Cancel culture often favors fireworks. It rewards speed, spectacle, and the clean cut of a single verdict. Meaning work prefers patience, care, and messy negotiation. Neither path is inherently immoral, but each creates different outcomes for self and society. There are practical moves people find useful if the urge to publicly cancel often arises. Try naming the impulse before posting. Ask, what emotion is most present? Anger? Shame? Fear? Relief? Try delaying for 1 hour. Often the worst heat cools enough to see the landscape. Try a private conversation first when possible. Direct communication sometimes resolves more than a public rebuke. Try creating a portfolio of small actions, petitions, donations, mentorship, supporting affected communities that don't need the spotlight but accumulate power. These are not moral absolutes, they are experiments to see if a different rhythm feels truer. The point is not to stop caring, quite the opposite. It's to steward care so it does the most good. If any of this resonated with you, take a breath. Notice the impulse again tonight. See what happens when the first reaction becomes a question. If this resonated, hit subscribe. Click it if you want more gentle, careful explorations of how people move in the world. Watch more videos to slow the pace down and see patterns you might have missed. Thanks for listening.